However, as time passed, he discovered that the situation was not good. An attitude of lacking interest in cultivation began to appear among the nether race. There were no mortal enemies or goals. They had been cultivating in a boring manner, causing many nether zeniths and other disciples to slack off and even give up. This was also the case among the personal disciples. The black hell chicken, the chaotic heavenly dog, Zhou Mingwei, and so on. Very few disciples didn't slack off at all. In the entire hidden sect, other than Hanju, only Liao kept cultivating in seclusion. The others would occasionally stop cultivating and relax. Hanju stood up and left. He was thinking along the way. Was he really right? Not everyone was in a hurry to cultivate. In terms of vision, the other disciples were inferior to him. From their point of view, the hidden sect was already invincible. With Hanju above them, cultivation was not that important. Besides, if they didn't like to cultivate, who could cultivate diligently all the time? Just like in his previous life, everyone knew that studying was good and could change fate. But how many people actually insisted on studying? After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju was still thinking about this question. 10 years later, all the disciples woke up from their Tao comprehension state. Hanju's voice suddenly resounded throughout the hidden sect. The immortal world pursues the sage position, so our hidden sect naturally has to pursue it. The heavenly Tao has 9 heavenly Tao sages, but our hidden sect has more than 9. If you have ambitions, cultivate well. As long as you reach the perfected pseudo-sage realm, I have a way to help you become sages. How many sages the hidden sect can produce depends on your efforts. The entire hidden sect was in an uproar. Sage? The million disciples were all excited. If other sages said this, they might scoff, but from Hanju's point of view, they all believed. For a time, the hidden sect was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing this matter. Many disciples began to enter seclusion. Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This stimulant was only temporary. After a period of time, their passion would definitely decrease. Find new Tories on Nov-E-L, Bin, Calm however, that was something for the future. Spring passed and autumn came. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Perhaps because nothing happened, Hanju felt that the past 1,000 years had been unprecedentedly fast, as if he had a blurry dream. There were no storms or conflicts in the 100-peak Immortal River. Although the battle in the Immortal World did not stop, it did not affect the 100-peak Immortal River. Most of the hidden sect disciples could feel the peace. Why most? Because many disciples still wanted to leave. They felt that they were already strong enough or couldn't take another step forward, so they didn't want to cultivate anymore. On this day, Hanju summoned Han Zuetian and asked him to screen unnamed disciples who couldn't increase their cultivation and send them to the heavenly race. Hanju originally wanted to support the heavenly court, but he felt that there was no need. The heavenly emperor had already established the new heavenly court. What was the use of the old heavenly court? If they supported the heavenly court and the heavenly race, wouldn't there be chaos if these two forces fought each other? Several days later, 5,000 unnamed disciples left. A third consisted of immortal emperors, and the remaining were Grand Unity Golden Immortals. Hanju pulled Fang Liang and Ji Xianxin into a dream at the same time. The dream was a small forest near the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Seeing him, they immediately knelt down and bowed. Hanju said, "From now on, the vice leader of the heavenly race will be Fang Liang. The two of you will support each other and control the heavenly race alone to fight for the heavenly Tao's Providence." Hearing this, Fang Liang was stunned. He had long guessed that the hidden sect was supporting Ji Xianxin, but Ji Xianxin didn't say anything, so he didn't dare to believe it. Hearing Hanju's words now, he still had mixed feelings. Why don't you support my heavenly court? This thought couldn't be dismissed. Ji Xianxin smiled readily and said, "Of course. The burden on me can finally be lifted." Hanju said calmly, "Fang Liang, don't be tied down by the heavenly court. The previous heavenly emperor is still alive and has also established a new heavenly court. Be careful not to be implicated. A new era needs a new face. The leader of the heavenly race is not the end for you. I have higher expectations for you. This is only the beginning of your training. Don't disappoint. Me, Ji Xianshan and Fang Liang were stunned. Higher expectations? Could it be the sage position? Their hearts beat faster. They already knew that Hanju was a sage and not an ordinary heavenly Dao sage. Hanju had his own Dao attainment method. Ji Xianshan's eyes burned as he asked, "Are you a sage?" Hanju said, "The heavenly Dao is not everything in my eyes. I hope that you can follow in my footsteps." Do you know where the previous generation of sages went? The two of them shook their heads with curiosity. Hanju waved his sleeve and removed the dream. The rest was left to the two of them to mediate. Hanju continued cultivating. He was only at the mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm and was still far from the freedom sage realm, let alone the great Dao sage realm. There was still a long way to go. He had to set a goal first. Before the next immeasurable calamity arrived, he had to reach the great Dao sage realm. 300 years later, I, Choshi Lai, will preach the Tao in the 33rd heaven 1,000 years later. This lecture will choose the sage candidate to replace me in the future. Choshi Lai's voice resounded through the myriad worlds, causing an uproar. Sage position. This time was different from the past. Choshi Lai had clearly said that he would give up his position. Hanju, who was cultivating, opened his eyes with a strange expression. Chao Shilai wanted to abdicate? He was only a late-stage heavenly Dao sage and had yet to reach the perfected realm. How could he abdicate? Hanju felt that this fellow was going to trick someone again. He suddenly had a bold idea. I want to know who the heavenly Dao sages are when the next calamity begins. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 9 figures appeared in Hanju's mind. Chou Shilai, Li Moyi, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Li Daokong, Yi Tian, Huang Zuantian, Fuxishan, Great Loose Heaven, Jinshan, and 2 unknown sages. Their information appeared in front of Hanju. Great Loose Heaven, Heavenly Dao Sage, Immeasurable Emperor. Jinshan, Heavenly Dao Sage, Ancient Master of Calamity. Hanju had a strange expression. Except Master Tianju and Emperor Shao were gone. It was unknown if they had transcended or perished, but Li Muyi had actually returned to the Heavenly Dao Sage position. It wasn't surprising that Li Daokong had become a sage. Although it was fast, it was normal for Yi Tian as a son of the Heavenly Dao. Huang Zuantian. Hanju could only say one word. Amazing! Hanju had always been letting Huang Zuantian be. He could be where he was today because of his own efforts. Yi Tian became a sage. Why did that kid Hantuo fall behind? Hanju thought silently and continued to derive. I want to know Hantuo's cultivation level when the next calamity begins. It involves your own karma and unknown karma. You are not allowed to derive it. Hanju showed a frown. What was the unknown karma? It seemed that he had to pay more attention to Hantuo in the future. Hanju immediately looked around and accidentally discovered that Hantuo and Yi Tian had already left the sea and arrived at the center of the immortal world. They were cultivating in a mysterious place filled with ancient restrictions. The limbs of the previous immeasurable calamity mighty figures were thrown down by Emperor Shao. It was unknown who had piled them here. The ruins of the great Tao. Tao of Karma. Could it be left behind by ancestor Shitian? Hantuo and Yi Tian were clearly comprehending a mystical power. Hanju retracted his gaze and asked silently, why did ancestor Shitian leave behind this mystical power? 160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered the illusion. If he didn't figure these things out, Hanju wouldn't be able to eat and sleep in peace. It was mainly because of those sages that he felt that the mighty figures had their own ambitions and motives. Hanju opened his eyes and discovered that he had arrived at the great ultimate hall. Ancestor Shitian sat on the mat. His aura was ethereal, like a phantom. A voice sounded, "I'm about to leave. I'll leave the heavenly Tao in your care." Hearing this, Ancestor Shitian opened his eyes and frowned. "Why? I have nothing to do with the heavenly Tao. The only person I can trust is you." The mysterious voice's words made Ancestor Shitian silent. Ancestor Shitian said, "I don't want to interfere in the matters of the heavenly Tao. You can leave behind some opportunities and let new experts appear in the future heavenly Tao." After so many calamities, the sage positions are almost monopolized. They are all passed down from generation to generation by the previous sages. Many geniuses with greater potential are killed. It's not a good thing for the heavenly Tao's development. Fine. The illusion shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. The person who was communicating with Ancestor Shitian should be that mysterious Tao ancestor. Since he had good intentions, Hanju didn't have to worry. He looked at his son for a while more and continued cultivating. The heavenly Tao developed very smoothly. As long as there was no situation like the heavenly devil calamity, Hanju didn't have to take action. As for the sages, they didn't dare to target him openly. In a cave abode, the three pure sacred ancestor was communicating with Li Mui. Li Mui frowned and said, "Li Daokong shouldn't be targeting you because of Hanju's instructions. There's something wrong with this kid's temperament. Ignore him." The three pure sacred ancestor nodded. He was very unhappy when Li Daokong was mentioned. He wasn't holding back on the account of Li Mui, but Hanju. Li Mui snorted. "If not for me protecting him in the past, this kid would have died long ago. For the time being, stay here in peace unless I order you otherwise." The three pure sacred ancestor nodded. Li Mui stared at the other party, feeling uncomfortable. For some reason, ever since he returned after leaving for a period of time, he felt that the three pure sacred ancestor had gone out of his control. However, the three pure sacred ancestor only listened to him and was not completely controlled by him. He couldn't see through him. If the three pure sacred ancestor betrayed him, he could do nothing because he couldn't enter the immortal world, and the three pure sacred ancestor couldn't leave the area of the heavenly Tao. In the end, Li Mui didn't say anything else and dissipated. The three pure sacred ancestor closed his eyes as the cave abode fell silent. Dark clouds covered the sky. Ghost shadows undulated in the sea of clouds. It was ghastly and terrifying. Below was the desolate land. Han Tuo, wearing black clothes, and Yi Tian, wearing a beast skin robe, meditated side by side. In front of the two of them stood a strange stone tablet that was 30 feet tall. Strange words could be seen on the stone tablet's surface. They were vivid and looked like flowing blood. Yi Tian opened his eyes and said proudly, "I've already learned it." "What about you?" Han Tuo glanced at him and said, "Not as fast as you." Where did this fellow come from? His potential was too terrifying. However, Han Tuo was not far from learning the mystical power. Yi Tian stood up and said, "Continue cultivating. I'll go take a look around. There's a powerful force hidden nearby. I'm very interested in it." With that, he strode forward. Han Tuo frowned. "Be careful. This is a forbidden land." "It's fine. Don't worry." Yi Tian waved his hand and quickly disappeared at the end of the horizon. Han Tuo closed his eyes and continued to comprehend the mystical power. Several months later, your F4 stories on OVLBN. CM Han Tuo was excited. He had successfully grasped this mystical power. What a domineering mystical power. I'm stronger now. Although my cultivation isn't at the deity realm, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with a powerful enemy who has just entered the deity realm. Han Tuo thought confidently. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why was Tia not back yet? Han Tuo stood up and prepared to go looking for him. At this moment, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky. Golden light shone from it, illuminating the world. Figures in silver armor rushed in, led by the heavenly god general. The immortals immediately dispersed. Han Tuo looked over from afar and was shocked by the heavenly god general's spirit. So powerful! Heavenly race? Han Tuo immediately used the earth escape technique to leave. The heavenly god general glanced in the direction Han Tuo had left in, and his gaze landed on the stone tablet. What was that? The heavenly god general immediately flew over. For the next period of time, Han Tuo did not leave the Forbidden Land. Instead, he searched for Tion in the Forbidden Land. He discovered that more and more forces entered the Forbidden Land and even fought. After searching for 8 years, Han Tuo finally found Tion in a cave. However, Tion was already petrified. There were many stone statues around him with different postures. They looked like they were sealed without any preparations. Shocked, Han Tuo looked around cautiously. The cave was dark and filled with a strange mist, like the depths of the chaos. Han Tuo suddenly heard a faint panting. He was even more nervous. His divine sense covered his surroundings, but he didn't sense anything wrong. What happened? Han Tuo immediately picked up Tion's stone statue and prepared to escape. At this moment, a terrifying killing intent enveloped Han Tuo, shocking him to the point that he stopped moving. What a powerful body and blood vitality. The providence of the heavenly Tao is still very weak. Kid, you're very suitable to be my body of possession. A cold voice sounded. Ghost flames suddenly burned on Han Tuo's body, startling him so much that his body shook violently and dispersed the ghost flames. Han Tuo raised his arms, and blood patterns that were like the gods on the stone tablet crawled onto his body. Perfect! I'll use you to test my new mystical power. Han Tuo shouted in a low voice, his eyes a little excited. In the Taoist temple of the 100-peak immortal river. 40 years had passed since the last derivation. Hanju suddenly sensed something and opened his eyes, raising his eyebrows slightly. Who dares to possess my son? You think you can touch my bloodline? Hanju muttered with a strange expression. Asking to be killed. He silently deduced and discovered that the origins of the existence who wanted to possess Han Tuo were strange and extremely complicated. It was like an existence condensed from countless ghosts in the previous calamity. It felt like an inferior strange deity. It was a pity to kill this fellow directly. It was better to let him be Han Tuo's slave. It could also increase Han Tuo's survival ability. Hanju immediately cast a spell. In the catacombs, Han Tuo was also petrified like the surrounding stone statues and could not move. An endless black aura entered his body. An unprecedented pain made Han Tuo despair. He could clearly feel that his control over his body was fading and his soul was in pain. The mysterious existence was still laughing wildly as if he was about to obtain Han Tuo's body. At this moment, the mysterious existence suddenly screamed in horror. Why is this happening? Why? The mysterious existence roared in Han Tuo's mind in extreme fear. Han Tuo's pain also began to quickly fade. He couldn't help but be puzzled. What happened? He thought that he was doomed. Why did the other party suddenly suffer a backlash? Could it be that evil could not suppress good? Han Tuo waited uneasily. The mysterious existence's screams became more and more miserable. Han Tuo's body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye and the stone layer quickly disappeared. When Han Tuo returned to normal, the mysterious existence no longer screamed. He felt something in the depths of his soul. He could easily control it like an arm. He took it out. Immediately after, a ball of black aura emerged from his eyes and landed on the ground, quickly condensing into a figure. This person had an ugly face. His facial features seemed to be pieced together. His body was enveloped by a black aura and his true appearance could not be seen. Han Tuo wasn't nervous because he could completely control the figure in front of him. This feeling was extremely realistic. He could decide the other party's life and death with a thought. Who are you? Han Tuo asked. The other party said fearfully, I also want to ask who you are. Han Tuo did not answer and stared at him coldly. The figure trembled in fear and hurriedly said, You can call me Calamity's Vengeful. I'm formed by countless vengeful spirits. Vengeful spirits? Where did you come from? Immeasurable Calamity. Han Tuo's eyes lit up and he asked, Legend has it that the calamity just ended tens of thousands of years ago. What is the calamity? What kind of scene is it? The Calamity's Vengeful said carefully, The immeasurable calamity is the most terrifying calamity in the world. Most of the living beings in the previous immeasurable calamity died, causing the heavenly Tao to restart. At that time, the top mighty figures almost reshuffled. Have you seen mountains and seas filled with flesh and blood everywhere? That is the immeasurable calamity. Han Tuo was entranced. Was it really that terrifying? Han Tuo asked, Is Li Daokong the unparalleled mighty figure of the previous immeasurable calamity? The Calamity's Vengeful said indignantly, I've indeed heard of Li Daokong in the memories I possess. He was the eldest disciple of the human school and he supported the heavenly court. However, the heavenly court suffered a crushing defeat. I wonder if Li Daokong survived. Han Tuo couldn't help but sigh. He survived. However, he had already been expelled by the human school. Han Tuo had always been in awe of Li Daokong. After all, he was the strongest person he had ever encountered, and the other party had even saved him. However, Li Daokong didn't like him. He couldn't even acknowledge him as his master. Han Tuo asked curiously, Then, who was the winner of the previous immeasurable calamity? I heard that there will be a winner in every calamity. They will rely on their providence to soar. Calamity's Vengeful pondered and recalled his memories. It should be the Dark Forbidden Lord. Many memories in my mind have mentioned the Dark Forbidden Lord. It's said that the immeasurable calamity was caused by the Dark Forbidden Lord. Even after the calamity ended, no one knew the true identity of the Dark Forbidden Lord, but there's a legend in the world. When the heavens fall into darkness, the Dark Forbidden Lord will descend. This day will definitely come. The tone was filled with fear. Most of the vengeful spirits of the immeasurable calamity had experienced curses. That era where everyone cursed each other was crazy. Han Tuo continued to ask the Calamity's Vengeful and used its memories to understand the history of the entire immortal world. Hanju retracted his gaze. The Calamity's Vengeful was very strong and was already at the Zenith Heaven realm. With Han Tuo's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to suppress the Calamity's Vengeful, but it was impossible for a Zenith Heaven to resist a sage. Hanju had his own power in Han Tuo's body. This power didn't surpass the perfected pseudo-sage realm. Otherwise, it would be rejected by the heavenly Tao. With Hanju's cultivation, it was too easy to control the strength. Han Tuo had a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal as his bodyguard. However, he didn't know Calamity's Vengeful's cultivation level. It was not that honest. It only said that it was stronger than Han Tuo and was proficient in soul mystical powers. Continue cultivating. The Dark Sage King has already targeted the immortal world. He might attack at any time. I can't be careless. Hanju thought silently. Although the protection of the heavenly Tao was strong, what if it was gone? This was not impossible. Safety came from himself. Hanju would never put security in the heavenly Tao, let alone this heavenly Tao who wanted to scheme against him. Time passed. 3,000 years passed. Visit NOVUBIN CM for the L-test updates. This was the longest Hanju had been in seclusion. In the past 3,000 years, he hadn't even preached the Tao or anyone came to disturb him. During this period of time, the situation in the immortal world changed. Choshilai ended the lecture and appointed a cultivator called Great Loose Heaven as the successor of the sage position. This matter shocked the myriad worlds. Great Loose Heaven was not simple. After the heavenly Tao restarted, he was the first mighty cultivator who established the mortal world. After that, the Great Loose Heaven established a Providence sect in the immortal world. It had more than 10 million disciples and had the aura of the Jie school from back then. Apart from that, the demons were very fierce. Great Sage Heaven's equal, Yi Tian, joined the demons and became one of the 10 great demon saints under the Golden Crow Demon Emperor. He had countless demon soldiers under him and dominated an area. In contrast, the human race had entered the most difficult period. All the races could feed on them. After losing their status as a heavenly Tao race, only the human school cared for them, but they did not support them greatly. They only occasionally helped. On the other side, the heavenly race became very powerful and had overwhelming power. No force in the entire immortal world could compare to them. They had too many immortal emperors. They had few deity realm cultivators, but above them was a peerless mighty figure. The number one sword immortal of the immortal world, Li Daokong. Li Daokong had joined the heavenly race 1,000 years ago and relied on his powerful reputation to attract many mighty figures. Some cultivators joked that the next calamity would be a battle between the heavenly race and the demon race. On this day, Hanju opened his eyes and stood up, stretching his waist. Awesome! Cultivating without distractions was too satisfying. No wonder the mighty figures of the primordial era entered seclusion for 3,000 years at once. 3,000 years of seclusion had increased Hanju's cultivation greatly. He could feel himself becoming stronger. Hanju checked his emails first. After confirming that nothing major had happened recently and that his friends were safe, he walked out of the Taoist temple. Cao Cao, Zhangju, and the Crimson Fox immediately stood up and bowed to him. Hanju nodded slightly and came to the Fusong tree. The disciples under the tree stood up and bowed. The black-held chicken shouted, "It's been a few thousand years. Master is looking better again. His cultivation level has definitely surpassed that of a sage." This flattery was a little too much. Hanju was about to scold the chicken when Tao Comprehension Sword suddenly walked over. "Master, I was just about to look for you," Tao Comprehension Sword said anxiously. Hanju asked, "What is it?" Tao Comprehension Sword looked around and sent him a voice transmission. Tai Sutian sent me a dream and said that the human race is in trouble. She hopes that the hidden sect can save them. She said that Nivel will definitely not go back on her word. What you want is hidden in the human race. Nivel had hidden her primordial purple chi in the human race? Hanju didn't really care. He didn't need the primordial purple chi. Besides, there were so many humans. Should he protect them all? In his opinion, it was fine as long as the humans of the real world were alive. Even if all the humans in the immortal world died, what did it have to do with him? But then again, what calamity did the human race face? Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce and his expression became strange. 10,000 years ago, a young human family had been slaughtered and experienced all sorts of tribulations. They were filled with hatred for their race. Later, they obtained an opportunity in a certain danger spot and soared into the sky. This person was called Su Du Dao. His master was Immortal Emperor Samsara. Hanju almost forgot about this fellow. He didn't expect him to still be secretly active. Su Du Dao was already at the deity realm. He had reached this realm in 10,000 years. His speed was extremely exaggerated, but Hanju sensed that most of his body was filled with Immortal Emperor Samsara's dermic powers. Immortal Emperor Samsara was a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. It wouldn't be difficult for him to become a pseudo-sage in the future. Hanju ignored Tao Comprehension Sword and left, returning to his Taoist temple. He asked in his mind, why did Immortal Emperor Samsara support Su Du Dao? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 2 billion years. Not bad. Immortal Emperor Samsara was something. Continue. Hanju's consciousness fell into the illusion. this was a dark space filled with mist. Immortal Emperor Samsara sat in front of him. His image was mysterious like a shadow. At this moment, a figure landed in front of Immortal Emperor Samsara. It was Su Dudao. Su Dudao was unconscious and on the verge of death. A voice sounded, "Immortal Emperor Samsara, don't you want to become a sage? Support this kid and let him destroy the human race. The human race will die in your hands. You and I will not shoulder the karma. In the future, I will think of a way to obtain the primordial purple chi for you." Hanju had a strange expression. This voice, Emperor Shao. He didn't expect Emperor Shao to be behind Immortal Emperor Samsara. Immortal Emperor Samsara opened his eyes and revealed two pupils. He asked softly, "How can I believe you?" Emperor Shao said, "You can only believe me. The other sages don't think highly of you. You came from the Tao of reincarnation and Empress Hutu is above you." Immortal Emperor Samsara was silent. The illusion shattered and Hanju opened his eyes. Speaking of Immortal Emperor Samsara, Hanju's feelings were very complicated. The Immortal Emperor inheritance arranged by the system for him came from Immortal Emperor Samsara. Immortal Emperor Samsara had also plotted against him in the past, but he had not harmed him. His previous clone, Di Tai Bai, had often helped him. After tens of thousands of years, the world had changed. He could already look down on Immortal Emperor Samsara. After thinking about it, Hanju decided to visit Immortal Emperor Samsara in his dreams. Immortal Emperor Samsara hid very well, but in the eyes of sages, he was not hidden. It was very easy to find him. In the dream, Immortal Emperor Samsara opened his eyes and saw Hanju, who was emitting divine light. He couldn't help but frown and ask in a low voice, "Who are you?" He was shocked. He had been pulled into a dream without any guard. Even sages were not as terrifying. Hanju retracted the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection and revealed his unparalleled handsome face. After seeing his face, Immortal Emperor Samsara was moved. Hanju said, "This is the first time we meet, but it's not the first time either." Immortal Emperor Samsara was silent. After a long while, he sighed, "I was right about you, but I've also underestimated you." His feelings towards Hanju were complicated. When Hanju displayed his potential back then, Immortal Emperor Samsara had paid close attention to him. However, he didn't expect him to rise too quickly. It was so fast that before he could react, Hanju had already surpassed him. Hanju said, "Do you need a backing?" Immortal Emperor Samsara was stunned. He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I also owe you karma. Work for me and I'll support you. Do you know what I want? Isn't it just the sage position?" Immortal Emperor Samsara fell silent again. Hanju wasn't in a hurry and waited patiently. Immortal Emperor Samsara looked up and asked, "Why do you trust me?" Hanju stared at him and said, "There are causes and effects. The heavenly Tao's karma has its own operation. I know your situation, and it's not good. You only need to humble yourself and serve me. You should know my temperament. No one in the hidden sect is uncomfortable. I'll only give you this opportunity once. If you still betray me after agreeing, believe me, not only Emperor Shao, but no sage can save you." Immortal Emperor Samsara was expressionless, but his heart trembled. Hanju mentioned Emperor Shao. Could it be? Immortal Emperor Samsara took a deep breath and suddenly knelt. With this kneel, he relaxed. Compared to dignity, he cared more about his future. He really yearned to become a sage. "I will join you, Sect Master," Immortal Emperor Samsara said in a deep voice. Immortal Emperor Samsara's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4.5 stars. Hanju said, "Don't interfere in the matter of Su Dudao. Sever ties with him as soon as possible. Emperor Shao won't be affected by karma, but you're considered Su Dudao's master. You will be held responsible. Otherwise, why would the sages need you as the middleman?" Immortal Emperor Samsara smiled bitterly. Actually, I know, but I have no choice. Hanju said, I'll teach you a great Tao. Cultivate well. Without my instructions in the future, don't do anything for the sages. You're too weak now. I don't need you to do anything. With that, he did not say anything else and began to teach the great Tao of extreme origin to immortal Emperor Samsara. This dream lasted for 10 years. After the dream ended, immortal Emperor Samsara's favorability towards Hanju increased to 5.5 stars. The great Tao of extreme origin contained the method to attain the Tao. Immortal Emperor Samsara was shocked and glad. Fortunately, he agreed to serve Hanju. Otherwise, he would have missed this opportunity. However, when he recalled it, he sighed. He didn't expect that the backing he had been waiting for was actually nurtured by him. Karma was truly magical. Supporting immortal Emperor Samsara was just a whim of Hanju. He didn't have any expectations for him. Even if immortal Emperor Samsara betrayed him, he could destroy him with a flip of his hand. Moreover, as long as immortal Emperor Samsara cultivated the great Tao of extreme origin, he could forget about betraying him. If something happened to Hanju, everyone cultivating this Tao would suffer together. Sages might resist the attraction of the great Tao of extreme origin, but who below the sages could resist? He believed that immortal Emperor Samsara had already begun to study the great Tao of extreme origin. Hanju was in a good mood. He walked out of the Taoist temple and gathered all the disciples to preach the Tao. This lecture lasted for 100 years. 100 years later, after Hanju finished his lecture, he returned to the Taoist temple. He looked outside the 100-peak Immortal River. More than 10 years ago, a Tao seeker arrived outside the 100-peak Immortal River and knelt until now. This person was Han Tuo. His son was here to seek the Tao. To be honest, Hanju didn't want to accept Han Tuo for the time being. He hoped that he would take a different path from him. Once Han Tuo entered, the other disciples would definitely guess his and Hanju's identities. After the truth was revealed, Han Tuo's mentality would change. His father was actually a sage. It didn't matter if his mentality became better or worse. Hanju hoped that Han Tuo could walk his own path to attain the Tao. In any case, in the heavenly Tao, as long as he was around, no one could kill him. Han Tuo opened his eyes and said, I was invited by the hidden sect disciples, Tao Sovereign, Zhou Fan, and Zhao Shenyuan. It turned out that the two people who had just entered the chaotic domain were Yi Tian and Han Tuo. Hanju sent another voice transmission, if you can rely on yourself to become a pseudo-sage in 1,000,000 years, I, the sect master of the hidden sect, will directly take you in as my disciple and give you the right to attain the Tao. Tao attainment qualification. Han Tuo's breathing quickened. Although attaining the Tao was extremely far from him, he knew that attaining the Tao was extremely difficult. How many geniuses had died at the pseudo-sage threshold, let alone attaining the Tao at a higher level? Han Tuo said, Thank you, senior. I understand. He immediately stood up and left. He finally woke up after leaving the 100-peak Immortal River. He laughed at himself. It was not giving him opportunities, but merely looking down on him. Fine, then. When have I, Han Tuo, ever relied on a sect to travel the world? Han Tuo's eyes became firm again. Since the hidden sect did not want him, why should he be persistent? 1,000,000 years? Ha! Han Tuo's eyes became firm and he stopped thinking about this. Perhaps he was born to be free and unrestrained. Han Tuo left in despair. Hanju could sense this kid's depression and dissatisfaction. This was not bad. Son, I let you go because I have absolute confidence in protecting you. Hanju sighed. After all, he had watched Han Tuo grow up. He hoped that he would become a person with absolute confidence and not someone who blindly trusted his father. He was still very satisfied with Han Tuo's current experience. He was sensible, but he wasn't afraid of powerful enemies. In the chaotic domain, 5 figures gathered. They couldn't see each other's faces. Zhou Fan smiled proudly. Recently, I've been doing well in Chaotic City. I've recruited many prodigies as my underlings. Dao Sovereign snorted. Don't forget to cultivate. How can this be? Zhou Fan turned to look at Yi Tian and said, Little fellow, you're very famous now. Your name spread all the way to the Chaotic City. Don't follow the demons. If I introduce you to the hidden sect or the Chaotic City, you can obtain supreme cultivation resources. Yi Tian said, TCH, I don't need any resources. Like I said before, my talent is #1 in the world. That's because you're not standing in front of me. Otherwise, I'll make you kneel down with one palm. Aren't you cultivating tens of thousands of years more than me? I'll definitely become a sage in the future. You're at most a pseudo-sage. Hee hee, how can you become a sage? Zhou Fan and Yi Tian began to bicker. Zhao Xianyuan looked at Han Tuo and asked, Why didn't you come to the hidden sect? Han Tuo said, The sect master of the hidden sect asked me to go back in 1,000,000 years. He wants me to become a pseudo-sage first. Dao Sovereign and the other two didn't reveal Hanju's identity, including his name. After all, Hanju didn't reveal his identity when he was in the chaotic domain. Dao Sovereign shook his head and said, Your surname is also Han. I thought that master would be moved. What a pity! Hanju indeed had rules. Without reaching the pseudo-sage realm, one was not allowed to go out. Now, this rule was extended to the outside world. It was normal. Han Tuo asked curiously, The name of the hidden sect master begins with Han? Zhou Fan glared at Dao Sovereign and scolded him. Don't speak nonsense. How can you reveal the name of a sage? Dao Sovereign knew that he had said something wrong and couldn't help but shake his head. Check out LT, SDVL, on NOVL bin. CM Zhao Xianyuan smiled. Don't ask. There are many people with the surname Han. We can't let all the disciples with the surname Han acknowledge our master as their ancestor, right? We can't build relationships randomly. Han Tuo nodded. Yi Tian snorted. So what if he's a sage? I'll become a sage sooner or later. Brothers, recently, someone pretended to have the chaotic physique but didn't enter here. Should we go and deal with them together? They're in the heavenly race. Zhao Xianyuan said angrily, You're really a loyal dog of the demons. You're taking the opportunity to let us deal with the heavenly race? Don't you know that the hidden sect is behind them? Stunned, Yi Tian asked in surprise, The hidden sect supports the heavenly race? Why didn't I know? Han Tuo said helplessly, I already know. You fight all day and the subordinates around you fawn on you. How can you understand the real world? Yi Tian did not say anything. If anyone said anything about him, he would retort. Only towards Han Tuo would he not refute. Apart from being good friends, Han Tuo had also saved his life. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju discovered that ever since he subdued Heavenly Venerate Wufa, there had been no more trouble. To him, time passed very quickly. Hanju's cultivation level kept increasing, and he was getting closer and closer to the late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. How wonderful! How good would it be if it could continue like this? Hanju opened his eyes and thought happily. Peace had better last until he was invincible. Hanju checked his emails. He didn't know how his recent friends were doing. Your good friend Immortal Emperor Samsara was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor returned to the immortal world and was expelled by your good friend Choshilai. He was severely injured. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by GS school cultivators, X12309. Your grand disciple Fang Liang was attacked by the heavenly race's immortal gods, X63. Your good friend Choshilai was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Emperor Shao has cursed too many times. His Dao heart is in chaos. Your good friend Shidu Dao was attacked by your good friend Li Dao Kong. Your disciple Ji Xianshan was cursed by a mysterious curse. This Emperor Shao. He actually pretended to be the Dark Forbidden Lord and cursed people everywhere. Aren't you making me take the blame for you? Hanju was unhappy. When the sages mentioned the curse, they would definitely think of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Although no one guessed that he was the Dark Forbidden Lord, he was still unhappy. After all, the Dark Forbidden Lord was Hanju's alternate identity. Fortunately, this fellow had suffered retribution. Hanju watched for a while. The commotion was endless, but it had nothing to do with him. Han Tuo had already begun to take risks, but with the calamity around, Hanju was not worried about him. An hour later, Hanju visited Qiushilai in his dreams and asked about the reincarnation mystic realm. In the dream, Qiushilai replied, "I can't find the Dark Sage King. This fellow is too cautious." Hanju asked, "Why can't you destroy the reincarnation mystic realm?" "No, this mystic realm was once the territory of the Heavenly Dao race's dragon race. The Providence is still there. If it's destroyed and the Heavenly Dao is incomplete, the forces outside the Heavenly Dao will surge in." "I see. Then, you have to strictly guard this place. The Dark Sage King will attack sooner or later." "Yes, I've asked Li Mui. The Dark Sage King is indeed powerful. If not for the providence of the Heavenly Dao in the Kiliocosm world, he would have died in the Dark Sage King's hands. I'll cultivate well and fight him in the future. Before that, you can't be negligent." "Don't worry." Hanju left the dream. For some reason, Qiushilai's attitude made him feel very uneasy. Qiushilai was very respectful to him, but he was a little perfunctory. Recently, Qiushilai had been very well behaved. It was unknown what he was doing. Hanju consumed 4 billion years of his lifespan. He was relieved after confirming that Qiushilai couldn't kill him. "I want to know when the Dark Sage King will attack the immortal world? 50 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. In about 5 billion years." "So long." That was settled. Hanju wasn't even 100 million years old now. "I'll have reached the Great Dao Sage realm after 5 billion years no matter what, right? What I have to do now is not curse the Dark Sage King, lest this fellow gets desperate and forcefully attacks the Heavenly Dao ahead of time, just like those ambitious people who faced the previous calamity." Hanju secretly decided. He couldn't use the Book of Misfortune casually in the future. Hanju stopped thinking and looked outside the Taoist temple. A disciple had been kneeling for a long time. Long Hao. Ever since he returned to the hidden sect, Long Hao's personality had changed. He had become more mature and did not speak as much as before. This was the first time he looked for Hanju alone after returning.